go.
Hurry into your local Acura dealer for the Season of Performance event going on now.
Geno Smith had some sort of elbow issue against the Rams, but he's expected to play. The best the Seahawks have been with Geno Smith as their quarterback over the past season and a half was early last season. Early this season, they put up 37 in two straight games, but quickly fell off after that. Only 16 points against the Rams. So there's a pattern emerging with Geno Smith at QB for Seattle, and it's hot starts to the season, then they fizzle out. This was a slightly below average offense over the back half of 2022. The 49ers obviously beat Seattle 3 times last year, twice in the regular season, once in the playoffs. And Geno Smith, I just don't feel that he really threatened them in any of the games that they played last year. The key is the 49ers overwhelmed the Seattle pass protection in essentially every single game that they played. It got better for the Seahawks over the course of the season series. The first game was a complete skunking. The 49ers, in that one, I believe they gave up a special teams touchdown on a blocked field goal, right, and a return. That was all they gave up. The defense didn't give up any points to Seattle, and they completely overwhelmed the entire Seahawks offensive line. I think that the result would have been viewed similarly in the clinching game in Seattle, if not for that Nick Bosa roughing the passer penalty that nullified Illinois pick 6. And then Seattle showed some signs of life offensively in the wild card game at Levi. That was the old Charles Omenihu game, right? Charles Omenihu came in and knocked the ball away from Geno Smith late in the third quarter, and the 49ers took command. And obviously Brock Purdy was really good in that game, 300-plus yards. So right now, the Seahawks, I don't think, have gotten much better along the offensive line. Charles Cross is still the left tackle. They brought in Jason Peters, who's 41 years old, to play right tackle. And you can't convince me that Jason Peters can have an advantage at age 41 over Nick Bosa and Chase Young rushing against the tackle position. So, and then on the inside, they're not great. Evan Brown is the new center for Seattle. Taking fire. Yeah, Phil Haynes at right guard. So they've tried to rework the line a little bit, but it's just not, mano a mano, when you're comparing talent against talent, the 49ers have a whole heck of a lot more of it on the defensive line than Seattle has on the offensive line. For that reason, the 49ers should control that line of scrimmage. They had 38 pressures, the 49ers did this past game against a Tampa Bay front that's a lot better than Seattle's. There's no Tristan Wirfs in Seattle. So I think just that truth, and then we look at the recent Seattle has massive additions to the offensive side of the ball. They drafted Jackson Smith and Ejigba. Solid player, but I mean, he's not getting the target distribution that DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are getting, and the 49ers have already done fine against Metcalf. Smith and Ejigba is the slot guy. So if the 49ers are going to be a little strained in the secondary, it's going to happen at that slot corner position, because that's what happens when you have to shuffle everything around. More inside. Ambry Thomas has to play on the outside, and then various machinations of whatever the opposing offense does to get guys open. But again, there's just not enough firepower here, and not enough history of Seattle actually doing anything against this 49ers defense for the 49ers to be overly concerned. It's just, I mean, we're just speaking facts. Kenneth Walker, the running back, they call him K9. He's probably not going to play in this game. He got hurt against the Rams. It's going to mean the Michigan man, Michigan product, Zach Charbonnet, who finished his career at UCLA, transferred, and now he's up in Seattle in the NFL. He would be the lead back in the Seahawks. Other side of the ball is where I have a bit of a 49ers update, and I was waiting for more people to come into the room to start talking about this. The 49ers did not practice today, but they did release an estimated participation report. You have to do this in the NFL on these Thursday night games, even if you don't practice. Taking effective fire. It is an estimation of who would have practiced and what their, or who wouldn't have practiced, and what their status would have been had there been a practice. Aaron Banks was listed as out. He wouldn't have participated. Not a surprise, he's been out with a turf toe injury. But a new addition to the 49ers report was the right guard, Spencer Burford. He's on there with a knee. So Banks and Burford, the 49ers' two starting guards, left guard and right guard, both would not have practiced today at the 49ers practice. That's going to make tomorrow's practice the only one of the week very, very interesting. Will we see Banks? Probably not. Will we see Burford? I have no idea. What would the 49ers do if they don't have Banks or Burford? What if they are missing both starting guards in this game against Seattle? Well, let's take a look to see what the 49ers options are. I can take Colton McKivitz off of shading at this point. But I'm going to put Spencer Burford, because he would have missed practice. I'm going to put him in the injury shade, just to contextualize what's going on here. So you've got Banks, you've got Burford. What are your options? Well, the problem is that your interior line primary backup, John Feliciano, is currently filling in at left guard, so he can't fill in 2 spots at once. So what do you do for that right guard spot? Well, Jalen Moore, a lot of people were looking at him as a potential guard when he was entering the NFL. Jalen Moore, who I've highlighted right here, he could move in and he could play guard. Colton McKivitz has actually played guard at the NFL level in the past, back in 2020. So theoretically, you could slide McKivitz into guard and move Moore to right tackle, or Matt Pryor to right tackle. But I don't think you want to disrupt 2 positions on one side of the line of scrimmage. If you do that, then you're changing both your right guard and your right tackle, and I think the 49ers would rather keep this at just changing one of the positions. So that means either Jalen Moore plays that position, right guard, or you can call up one of your practice squatters. The most logical candidate would probably be Jesse Davis, a 32-year-old veteran who has experience playing right guard. In fact, he's told me that is his favorite position. Davis has played left. He's played every single position except for center. So he's played left tackle, left guard, and right tackle. And he says he's best at right guard. So potentially you could call him up from the practice squad to play on Thursday. He's a guy with NFL starting experience. But that's why I'm, saying that this is just a hypothetical because we have to wait to see if Spencer Burford is going to be available, and tomorrow should be an interesting practice in that regard. The reason that Nick Zakel's not an option is because he tore his biceps muscle and his season is over. So, anyway,
1 minute remaining.
on to the matchup for the 49ers against the Seattle Seahawks up front. We talk about the fact that the 49ers might be compromised on the interior.
Hostile UAV in the
I think
area.
Seattle has invested a little bit. There's a lot of aging players up front,
Watch for movement.
so it's not the most exciting defensive line, but I think that they're generating a little bit more than they have in years prior. I know they had that explosion Giants, but that doesn't mean anything because the Giants are terrible. But if you look
30
across
seconds
the
remain.
front, Leonard Williams is there now. They're playing a 3-4 now in Seattle. Leonard Williams is one of the defensive ends, so he could potentially take advantage of the fact that the 49ers are compromised health-wise on the interior at both guard positions, and Jake Brendel has struggled against the power rush so far this year. The 49ers have obviously already faced Leonard Williams this season. He was with the New York Giants back in 3. Now he's with the Seattle Seahawks. Jaron Reed is the big nose tackle still in the middle, and Mario Edwards Jr. is the other
Mission
defensive
failed.
end for
Return to
Seattle.
base.
They don't have Uchenna Nwosu anymore. He got hurt, season-ending injury. He's one of the edge rushers. He was their leading sack guy last year. So it's Draymond Jones, who came over for Denver, and Boye Mafe. That's a younger edge rusher for Seattle, who they really like, who I think has made some strides, and he's helped this pass rush get a little bit better. Frank Clark is depth on this team, the former Kansas City Chief. Previously with the Seahawks, went to the Chiefs, then to the Broncos for a bit, right? And now Frank Clark is back with the Seattle Seahawks. So they're better getting after the passer than they were last year, but they're not significantly better. This is not like, oh, they got Chase Young on top of Nick Bosa, top of Randy Gregory better. This defense is still struggling to prove that it's a decent unit better. I think ever since the Legion of Boom exited in Seattle, it's been an uphill battle to get that defense to be efficient. Now they got Bobby Wagner back, and he's playing really good football at that linebacker level, even at a more advanced age at this point. But the 49ers manipulate linebackers and beat linebackers better than any team in football with the adaptability that they have. It's the young cornerbacks for this Seattle team that I think are particularly intriguing. Obviously, you have Devin Witherspoon, who has been a really versatile, adaptable cornerback for them, and then you have Reek Woolen. Reek Woolen is the corner with a little bit more hype on this team, right? Young corner. 49ers have already seen him last year. I don't think he did that well against Brandon Ayuk, but a lot of people are hyping up the Seahawks corners. This is not Brandon Brown or Richard Sherman and who is it? Byron Maxwell, those guys, the Legion of Boom guys. This is not at that level, but it probably is the strength of the defense. At the end of the day, when I go through this entire Seahawks depth chart, I just have to say it's not as impressive as the